Thank you very much. And yeah, so my name is Vahid. I'm living in Argentina currently. I've moved here in July with my wife and son, and we are pioneering as members of the Baha'i community. So this is where the fun is. I am looking for opportunities to do some transformative leadership workshops, but don't have a TL activity as of right now. And perhaps Jess would like to go next.
My name is Jessica Kerr, and I am now living in Loveland, Colorado. We've lived here for the last couple months, moved from Severance, not too far. Basically, my passion lies within our youth, so 11 to 17. And now, of course, even our older young adult youth, so anywhere from 25 to 30, whatever that looks like for people, and kind of all over the place with the arts. Really initially found that incorporating TL with arts, and my discipline is photography, and so teaching photography and then using the TL framework along with that has been phenomenal. Prior to COVID, did it in school, in a school in Northern Colorado, 2 years grassroots experience, and then COVID happened. And so then everything's been online. And now that COVID is somewhat being adaptable for the world, we're now adapting to what this looks like with all the experience, both online and in person. So kind of new events and new initiatives under I guess happening now locally. So
wonderful. Nice to meet you.
Perhaps Joan, you'd like to go next?
Okay, I think everyone here knows me, but my name is Joan Hernandez, or Latin America Juanita Hernandez. So I'm always constantly changing my name back and forth on Zoom calls. And I had the privilege of working with Dr. Eloy Anello. How long ago? 25 years ago, almost 30 now, I guess, and developing Liderazgo Moral in Spanish. And then after Eloy passed, even though we've been using it in English with PDF versions, but working with May Kadim, who'd also worked a lot with Eloy and using transformative leadership, especially in the field of public health, we published the Transformative Leadership Developing the Hidden Dimension book and changed the name in English to Transformative Leadership. And I'm more of a, how can I say it? I produce things like books, like, you know, I write, I'm more the book writer. And right now I'm working on one of the capabilities of TL, which is giving encouragement. And I'm experimenting with preparing it for a course on Udemy. And so I'm more kind of behind the scenes. I'm also, during the last 3 months, I've had the opportunity to give courses at New University on the master's level, which is, let's see. Well, it's easier to say in Spanish, Liderazgo Moral y Organizacional. Just that's moral and organizational leadership, I guess. Anyway, it comes out better in Spanish. So anyway, I've given to 2 different groups and it's mostly in the area of administration, which is interesting. So I'm bringing in the capabilities related to social transformation and institutions and empowering institutions and things like that. And so, yeah, okay, yes, that's who I am and what I'm doing.
Carl, would you like to go next, please?
Sure, I'm Carl Ewing and I live in Las Cruces, New Mexico now. I first took this course with Eloy Anello in Tucson, probably in 2000, 2001. And I think Betsy was a part of that, weren't you?
I think so too.
Yeah, I think you were there.
I didn't take it there, but I don't, or we might have been in New Mexico. And I was trying to remember who it was with, but I know I'd met you when I was in Colombia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so anyway, and I've had many, many opportunities to do that, to facilitate this course here in Las Cruces. First with an NGO, I did 3 or 4 sessions with them. And then now with the community college and with the Arrowhead early high school, early college, high school.
Thank you. Elizabeth, would you like to go next, please?
Sure. Hi.
Maybe Annie wants to say something, and then we can Elizabeth talk a bit longer.
Sure. Please.
Well, I'm Annie Mitchell, and I live in Las Cruces with Carl. And that's who I learned about transformative leadership from. I took the courses through Wilmette Institute, and I really haven't done anything since. I look at my piles of books, and they're calling to me. And Joan kind of sent me this invitation. I thought, well, I'm going to come listen. I'm hoping that I can do some work with Carl at some point here in the work that he's doing in Las Cruces. And I'm also a member of the Audubon Society and the Audubon board here in Las Cruces, and trying to figure out ways to take some of these ideas to our board is, yeah, what I'm thinking about. But I basically came to listen to you all today.
All right, so now, Elizabeth, you're welcome to introduce yourself, and we wanted to ask you to share a little bit about your experience and trajectory with transformative leadership, please.
Okay. Hi, I'm a Baha'i, Lawapa to those of you who are Baha'is. I'm a physician, a medical physician. My background was in design and development for quite a while, in education. I lived in Colombia in South America for 14 years and have been in Latin America. I'm now in Alamos, Mexico. And I think what I'd like to do is if I can share my screen, I'll show you guys a quick little film. So we're not just looking at each other's faces, and we can talk a little bit about what's been used or what we do here. Let's see if I can find it. There should be a little iMovie here. 1 second. So I run a clinic in Alamos, Mexico, called Clínica Almas, which attends predominantly to indigenous communities. We attend marginalized areas where people don't have an easy access to care. And so let me share my screen now, if I know how to do this. I'm kind of a Luddite. Let's see if we can get this going. There, can you see my screen at all?
It's loading.
Yep, there you are.
Okay, let's just drag this back. Get this to start back here. And I'll open this up. So much like Juanita, I'm a little schizophrenic in my name because Betsy comes out Betsy in Spanish, and so I'm Elizabeth. This is we work with concepts that are both macro and micro stakeholders. Ojos que no ven, corazón que no siente. The eyes that don't see, the heart that does not feel. We work in remote areas that have very little access to education, development, healthcare, which, as I'm sure all you know from our Baha'i guidance, along with spiritual education, is the essence of what we weave together to make a difference. This is the village I live in. It's a population of about 14,000 people. And we attend to areas that are literally like from one central area, 14 hours on muleback up into the mountains, and then about a 4-day cycle of vaccinating the indigenous areas. Yeah.
Sorry, we're not seeing the video, but we're getting sound.
Oh, you're not seeing the video.
There.
Oh, now it's showing the video. Yep, now it's showing it.
Oh, let me just go back a little bit there. Can you see that?
Mhm.
And we see a screen with a black and white picture.
Yeah,
Like
that's
like an alcaldía or something.
Sonora. So anyway, so here's the village. Our clinic is right here in front of this in the city, but most of the people we attend to are in remote areas. We have healthcare promoters and we incorporate moral leadership, because I never knew it was transformational leadership until Juanita and I started to get into a conversation. But this is the lifeblood area of the region, the river. There are Yaqui, Yoreme Mayo, Guarijillo, Tarumara, Raramuri, Tepehuanes, and indigenous, the Comacac, which is called Seri in other language. But all of these communities we attend to in education and in healthcare little by little, and we knit together the knowledge and cooperation of the communities. As I said, we use the stakeholder values of the world and in a macro concept, and then we focus in micro attending to concepts and persons of integrity. That's the core of what transformational leadership speaks about, is the individual transformation, the participation, communication amongst people, and then the community transformation. There are 476 million indigenous in 90 countries. They're 15% of the extreme poor, but it's really serious, the access to their care. We work with nutrition and educate empowerment for the communities to do their own care. A lot of our healthcare is also nutritional, either provision or because we've had a drought in the Tarumara area. There's been matricide and
I think she's frozen. Okay. Oh,
You might have frozen. You might have froze, Betsy or Elizabeth.
yeah, Elizabeth, we can't hear you, or you're a little frozen.
And the video's no longer progressing.
Right.
Sorry, Elizabeth, this is we're not receiving video, and we're not getting sound from you.
Oh, that's too bad.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Nope, we can't hear you.
There's a little bit of sound, but we can't understand the words.
You might want to stop sharing your screen, and that might help unfreeze you.
Okay.
Oh, there she is. Okay. Oh, that's a bummer.
Your video is still frozen, Elizabeth, and we can hear you. I'm going to suggest you turn off your camera.
Well,
Can you see a video? Can you see her video?
No.
No, the
No,
video
we told her to
is
turn it off.
Okay. Oh, I just said stop sharing. Elizabeth, are you still there?
I do.
Oh, still having a hard time, huh? Shoot. So maybe we could just maybe move forward, and if you get restored, we can continue. Still a little poor quality there in the video.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. So I just turned off the video. I wanted to show you some of the images. What we've worked with is we have healthcare promoters that live in really remote areas. Can you hear me still?
Yep.
Yes.
So we're using transformational leadership along with skill sharing and providing oxygen concentrators and pulse oximeters and various pieces of tools, but the skill sharing is the essential component. And woven into it has been the moral leadership work. The indigenous communities do not speak a lot of Spanish. The women speak mostly their indigenous language, but it's been really an interesting enhancement of the work that we're working on. We've been alive for 10 years, the community. Before that, I worked in Nigeria and used moral leadership with the Minister of Mines brought me to Nigeria to train the next president's office about moral leadership and really providing community, listening to community issues and learning to dialogue from their heart and with interpersonal transformation and communication on a moral kind of the story of me, the story of us, and the story of urgency of transformation. So people, it was really an inspiring experience. And I have a lot of information about that we did in Nigeria with both the Igbo communities, and we integrated Virtues Project with the children and the youth. And then we work with moral leadership with the adults and the Virtues Project so that people could speak about their own individual traumas, come from their truth, and be more effective in their daily life to contribute to development and care. One of the things we do, and we will do here on November 8th again, is a cultural festival. If you can get a chance to look online, I'll put in the chat the YouTube video so you can see what we did during the beginning of COVID for transformational education for contagion with children. And so that there wasn't a spread of COVID, we kept COVID out of the indigenous communities for a year and a half. What we did is we went village to village, so we had small pods and isolations of no contagion. And so the video is kind of fun, and it'll show you what the clinic has done. We're transforming the clinic now from a lot of acute and chronic medical care to more of a laboratory for dialogue. And that's what I contacted Juanita about, a laboratory for education in rural public health and cross-border interventions in the healthcare sector. So that's a simple, quick overview with no visuals. I'm sorry, because it's always much better to see pictures of things. But I also live in a village that there's very little technical access. We use also telemedicine with our healthcare promoters. So they all have telephones and solar energy to be able to charge their phones and their oxygen concentrators and their nebulizers. And we communicate to either stabilize a patient or transport them or care in place in these really distant areas. There's a population of about 1,600 people in this one indigenous community. And then we extend into these other indigenous areas little by little. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I want to see the chat. Oh, thank you, Jessica. So I'm sorry we froze, and I'm sorry I couldn't share some of the images of the community healthcare promoters. What's so amazing, I think, with the inspiration of a lot of the work is that, for example, Mapsimiana, one of my healthcare promoters, has a 3rd grade education. Through skill sharing and not this attitude of prepotencia, that doctors have, like, do what I say, don't find things out for yourself. With her 3rd grade education, she saw that there was a woman who was 103 who had respiratory distress, knew to put a pulse oximeter on her, knew to give her 3 liters of oxygen a minute, and saved her life. And so these simple skills that are very teachable are really teachable with other components of humility and service and kindness and facilitation and believing and trusting in other people's capacities to be able to intervene in their local communities and with their families. So that's enough. Thank you.
That's a great example of the integration of the framework and the capabilities in that particular field. Have you written or produced or shared any of your learning in like a shareable format?
About transformational leadership, is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, seeing the framework applied in action. And I believe you said, it's been applied over 10 years. Is that the duration that we're looking at?
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I spoke at Oxford at the World Quality Medicine Conference. It was depressing because I was the only representative of Latin America. There are people from World Health Organization all over the world, but I always give the example of, from Addis Ababa and the healthcare for all that was initiated in the 70s that failed, not because of the lack of, professional or financial or even willingness on a global stakeholder level to make a difference, but for the lack of moral leadership and humanity, things were not effectuated. And I think right now, I'm going to tell you a little story that's kind of painful, but profound to me and has been very real the last 2 days. We work in a village. In the village, it's a small village across from the main indigenous village near the river. The mafia is very active there. And there was a guy who was a hitman, who we knew. He actually drove an ATV with my audiologist at one point to help. Renowned for murdering tons and tons of people, renowned. Exposed his children to severe emotional, violent, psychological trauma. He was killed last week, and we're proposing to do the film I told you on YouTube, which is our yearly puppet festival called the Festival Macurawe. And I've been troubled because I've had to talk. We have 5 doctors that work, and then 6 healthcare promoters and 16 vinculadores, which are liaisons, youth liaisons, that are learning these capabilities and things. It was really depressing because I was worried about the festival and the violence. But I realized that the element of hope, of joy, of conviviality, of community, 1,600 people come to these festivals and eat, and we have puppets and music and transformational workshops in just Red Cross care and things. But I realized that it's essential, even if it's a drop in the bucket, that there's an alternative reality that can be tapped into besides becoming a sicario, besides becoming a hitman, which is fast and acute money. So in some ways it's a blessing this guy was killed. I was dealing with the trauma of his children yesterday. So I think moral leadership in bite-sized pieces, understandable bite-sized pieces, is essential to any skill sharing of knowledge in healthcare, education, science, engineering, architecture, because whatever we do, we are souls on earth. and maybe we have greater or lesser technical skills of doing things, but it's really important, and it's a missing element, as the dean said to Carl, to have this kind of education woven into our world.
And are you able to teach transformative or moral leadership like to the other medical personnel that works with you, or you mostly just use it yourself in the villages, or?
No, my 6 doctors, we've had over the last 10 years, we take on pasantes de medicina. I don't know if you have that where you are in Argentina, but in order to get their licensing, they have to do a year of service. So they work in my clinic. They're 2 doctors every year. We've had about 20 doctors and then another 10 or so, I'm not exact on the statistics, but medical professionals that are very familiarized with the old texts of moral leadership, which I have, I have piles and piles of in Spanish. But the transformative leadership stuff in English, I don't have any of. And we're doing a cross-border health initiative where we teach a class called Alamos Telehealth with the University of Arizona. And I mentioned you, Juanita, to come and maybe talk to our class that we have of health. They're doctors, the pharmacy students, the nurse practitioners, and the public health school. And then the Unison, which is the University of Sonora, and the IECA, which is the Escuela de Enfermería de Guaymas. All these people are in this course every semester, and we do sharing of cross-border health and issues that touch many countries. So that's kind of a smattering of what we've done. The resource has been magnificent. I'd like to use it in a global health course. So I'm an adjunct professor for global health at the University of Arizona, working this too in English. So. Anyway, but I haven't published enough. I'm really bad at that. I make pictures. I can draw pictures, but I'm not very good at it.
No, I just wanted to say, since it seems you do get to the States, at least to Arizona, that even the Spanish book of Liderazgo Moral, the 4th edition, is also available both in print and in Kindle on Amazon. So not just Transformative Leadership, but the 4th edition of Liderazgo Moral in Spanish is also available, because people were asking for it and it was just too complicated. I mean, I once took like 10 books in my suitcase to send them to someone in the States and things like that. But, postal costs are now just, sky high and everything. So I got the books here, but, little by little, I'm using them in Bolivia mostly.
That's wonderful. The other thing that I didn't mention that I forgot that's important, I think, at Harvard, there's a gentleman by the name of Marshall Gantz. Marshall Gantz worked with Martin Luther King. He worked with the people who picked lettuce with Cesar Chavez in California. And he is, his work with Obama was attributed to Obama winning the presidency. He did the Hope campaign for Obama. I'm a director's fellow at MIT Media Lab, and I went and I worked with Marshall Gantz, and he knows and has some of the prints of moral leadership. He speaks Spanish fluently, and he teaches leadership, and along with what's his name, who does values mentoring, who's about 83, also from Harvard. I can't think of his name right now, but they're very aware of this work. And, they quote Stephen Covey and a lot of the different things, but it's very important that some of the quotes from Abdu'l-Baha are present too with that. So Marshall Gantz knows and has met with me specifically about moral leadership when I was in Boston, in Massachusetts. And he's a noble, humble, brilliant guy. So
Wow.
So great work, you guys. I'm impressed. Thank you.
Really incredible.
Yeah, amazing work and service to the community that you're providing. So very interesting to hear that experience. Could you perhaps tell us about which capabilities you found most useful, or which elements of the framework you use the most in what you do with liderazgo moral?
You know, I might have
Like,
to.
do you have favorites?
I might have to get my notes out. Let me get my notes out. They might be right here.
Thank you. Didn't need to disturb you from your seat.
I don't have it in front of me. I have all, I've got like, you know, all of the stuff from the Baha'i community for, you know, working with youth here. I have to go into my piles of papers. I'm at the house, not at my office. So, I mean, I can't think of things right now. I'm sorry. I've had a day where we were teaching clinicals all morning and I didn't sleep all night. So I'm a bit of a fuzzy brain. So, but the capabilities, you know, the personal transformation, we enhanced and wove it in with the Virtues Project and kind of waited to see what came up. It became like a game. And then we would do listening workshops of empathy for personal transformation and communication between the doctors and the Indigenous community that we live with. And then a lot of the other pieces that we've done, we just went one by one and went through capabilities and gave examples of our own interaction with communities. So that's all I can remember right now. I apologize.
Well, thank you so much. Those are all great things for us to think about. And perhaps it'd be fantastic if you could help us with one or more blog posts regarding your experience. No rush, but at some point, if you want to write a little bit in a very informal way, not in a published papers way, but in an informal way about your experiences with TL, that'd be very helpful for the community that is learning about transformative leadership. So that's an invitation. Think about it, and then maybe you can communicate with John regarding that possibility.
Okay, I have a little, maybe I have a chapter to my book, and it's small, but it's a story. It's about the Indigenous, the challenges that the Indigenous communities go through and their attitude of a different time frame and humility, a different listening, and then I'll make a little blurb in front of it about the moral leadership or transformative leadership application of my healthcare promoter and how they worked. So,
Oh, that'd be great.
okay.
I'm thinking, Jess, why don't you share your work with youth and how you incorporate the arts and things like that? Because I think, you know, Elizabeth might find that very interesting, because I mean, it's fantastic everything you've been able to do with the youth in these last 4 years or so.
Sure. I put together a couple of slides. There's some aspects of these slides that I think are probably a little bit more maybe impactful for the group. So if I get to the point where we're done, just let me know. There is a project, actually. Is that visible? Are you able to see the slides?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, I'm having, I have a new computer system and it's actually not behaving how it should, I think. I'm having some interesting effects on my screens and I'm not sure what that's going to actually relate to as I share. But anyways, one thing I do want to share, maybe Joan, we can share this toward the end, is there's a music video that was created by one of the youth, actually a group of the youth from one of the seminars. And so if that could be our closing, that would be great. So in essence, just a couple of things, just what's happening grassroots. Like I mentioned earlier, we are living in a new community. What inspired going out into the community locally is the fact that we offered a part 2 session of youth session, and we had 1 youth register. So this is with Wilmette. We did not have the numbers of youth register with our seminar, and a lot of reasons why that's happening. But with that challenge, you know, our team basically said, well, what do we do? What's our next step? So Crystal, who is my cohort in that group, and that seminar is my co-faculty. We actually live within 5 minutes of each other now. And we're like, well, let's take it to the youth locally. So here we are. Our initiative starts Monday. And so the idea is really this long-term space to promote, cultivate, and foster and support for the youth, 15 plus. And so on the right is just our flyer that we sent out to the community. We also are having conversations personally with the youth, inviting them personally. The idea is that this first session is a kickoff. We are combining these materials. So real short and sweet. We are going to start off with the comprehensive deepening program. Dan Jordan, is everyone familiar with this program? I know it was in the 70s as an assembly development program. Vahid, if you're not familiar, I can send you a compilation. I can send you this book. This actual book itself is completely available for communities to use. There's so many that are in print right now. They're sitting in the basement of Justice St. Rain, and they really do want a new home. So he's got over 1,000 books. Anyways, there's an incredible compilation all about the material, personal and social transformation, and material and spiritual transformation happening. So we're going to kick it off with the meaning of deepening with our youth. And then we're going to take it from there and provide spaces for transformative leadership. This is where the book comes into play, the actual Dr. Anello, Joan Hernandez book, and then complement it with our social action compilation by the Universal House of Justice. What we found recently in some of our our high school and college age youth sessions is that the youth, they love the material, but they actually love reading the book. So even though Transformative Leadership for Youth workbook is available for 11 to 17 and so on, they actually, the high school and college age, they actually dove into the book itself and just ate it up. And so once they got to that tool and that resource, it was very, they were very receptive. And so our initiative, or I guess basically our approach now, is to provide a choice, but that maybe even provide this for the actual book for the youth themselves, the older youth, to support the younger youth and use the workbook itself. And so that's something that we want to work on, because there is a space here for the workbook. It's been designed in complement to Ruhi and the JY textbooks and the Ruhi curriculum. And so the idea is that all of this supports the 3 areas of endeavor of the Baha'i community and so on. So this is what's going to be happening locally, but it came out of the challenge of not engaging our youth in the Wilmette seminar. So the idea was, let's try something new. And so that's something that I think has really been working well with our youth. To complement this initiative, created a new journal, a new youth art journal. And so basically this is just a blank journal, has a cover, has a quote from Shoghi Effendi, and then it has prayers and quotes for youth inside. And the idea is that we will integrate diverse arts within this ongoing study space. And I suspect there will be restaurants involved and hangouts and music and just fun stuff happening with them. So the more creative, the more dynamic that can be, the better, I think, for the youth. And then just another little highlight with our youth that have been involved from the beginning. So they started out 11, 12, 13 years old. They're now in their later years of, actually have some high schoolers that are actually have graduated, are graduating. They're applying for colleges. So I've provided certificates of completion for our youth, in addition to written several letters of recommendation by using the Transformative Leadership Framework, the elements and the capabilities by naming them. Yes, Elizabeth, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand till now.
No, thank you. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify, you're having the older youth are reading the book, and you're having the older youth mentor the younger youth with the workbook.
That's the approach that we're going to start practicing now. With our older youth in the last online seminar, their lifestyle, their schedules between high school, between college, between exams, family, work, it was really hard for them to engage with the actual workbook on their own, because it wasn't a together session and so on. So they found that reading the book on their own was really quite more approachable for them. And they were able to bring back their book into our online session and then reflect back on the material they read in complement to the units we were studying and the themes. So with that being said, I suggest not eliminating the actual book itself for any of the youth, high school and college youth, because they, giving them options and their learning styles, I think is really important. And it was something I was really not expecting, but I thought was really kind of a really insightful takeaway from that seminar. So with this group that we're going to start with, I will bring all the materials and I will provide them and invite them to decide what they want to do. However, if you have youth, let's say, who want to support other youth or younger youth, I think it's important for them to do the workbook also. They need to be familiar with the workbook and the layout and everything, because that just makes sense. They're going to be accompanying youth through that material, or, junior youth, age youth. So that's, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but I also have another question. Like right now, ¿ustedes se van? ¿Ya se van?
Sí.
Okay. Ahora, so, for example, right now I've got some university students here that are doing a piece called Los Fuchis, stinky in Spanish. It's about, aliens who come from outer space, and they find that the world is infected with humans.
That's great.
They're teaching climate change. So we're meeting, actually, it's adorable, but they're here. What do you have that are mirror things in Spanish? Because in English, I don't live in English. I live in Spanish.
Yeah.
You know that a lot of this originated in moral leadership, in liderazgo moral. And for example, Obed, who's here, he has a PhD in education.
Great.
And they're helping us. We're forming because of COVID and because of the festival, we're developing a whole television series for children called Okay. But it all goes into different aspects of challenges, retos emocionales que se puede aplicar liderazgo moral o una virtud para contrarrestar o como antídoto de la situación.
So I think we could try to explore if there's different areas in terms of the art initiatives, if it needs to be translated. I think we have enough Spanish speakers that can explore how we can do that. So Joan, Vahid, and then Elizabeth.
Joan, Vahid, and Carl, I'll speak Spanish.
Carl,
so, yeah.
I know you guys are all Spanish speakers. Unfortunately, I don't have that beautiful superpower. So yeah, so I think if there's anything specific that we want to explore, we can definitely provide that, and then we can just translate it or figure out a way that can be used and be applied in your cultural context. That's one thing I do, just to share. I do incorporate culture in our seminars. It's really important that culture is something that's introduced very much in the beginning of our seminars, and I have different ways I do that as well, often through art and projects where the youth are invited to share their own cultural heritage, and that helps to help them recognize other cultural heritage backgrounds, and then that helps them to recognize how to promote unity and diversity through diverse cultures and traditions and languages and foods and so on. And so it's kind of like step by step, but all one picture, but definitely can help with that. So I hope that helped you.
Yeah, Elizabeth, as far as materials in Spanish go, I wanted to say that, like when we first wrote Moral Leadership with Eloy, it was part of a program for training rural school teachers as community development agents. And we took all 18 of the capabilities and we wrote chapter-length versions of them. In fact,
Right,
we wrote the chapter.
I have bits of that. I don't have all of it probably, but I have a lot.
Because what we did with the chapter-length versions was we integrated them into the more technical modules. Like when we were teaching strategic planning, we integrated formulating a shared principle-based vision, or when we had the module on teamwork, we included unity and diversity, or when we were on the module on community participation, we had consultation, and so on and so forth. But I mean, I have all of those chapter-length versions in Spanish. And I mean, some of them have been updated and published in Spanish, especially the ones related to interpersonal relationships. I think in Spanish, I only have 2 right now. The one which combines imbuing thoughts and actions with love and giving encouragement is in one book, and unity and diversity and the role of consultation is in another book. But those are both in Spanish, you know, online, well, either on Kindle or print, and you can get them through Amazon. And I mean, I have others, but I don't, some of them are published in English, because the thing is now Amazon is the easiest way to publish. I mean, you know, before we went to a local publisher and we made 1,000 copies, and from the last time we made 1,000 copies, which was in 2010, everything went online. Even the university stopped buying from us. They said, no, we give everything free to the students online. You know, we're not having them buy books anymore. Anyway, so, you know, so we're no longer printing them. And besides that, to send outside of Bolivia, postal fees are now so high. So mostly I'm just working through Amazon, and more people buy through Amazon who speak English and Spanish. So I have more in English.
Maybe we can
Spanish.
set up a budget for that, because where the clinic is very humble. So those kinds of things, after, you know, paying our healthcare promoters and stuff, are difficult to acquire sometimes.
Yeah. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that, you know, especially if you kind of go through the 18 capabilities and say which are more interesting, I mean, I can just send you as a PDF you know, what I have on each of those capabilities, the chapter length version.
Okay, I'm going to look at them with Obit, because that's what they're here for today, to work with me on some of this. So we'll make some simple choices and see what we can do. And then we'll share back with you when we produce these puppet shows, and it's kind of like Sesame Street for children, but about virtues and things and development.
Yeah.
I could see the elements and the capabilities of being a phenomenal platform or a phenomenal foundation for some type of children's show through puppets. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, kids are very receptive to this idea of being an agent of change. And that's basically what we've done in the very beginning, is incorporated that mindset, and they catch on. I mean, obviously they catch on so fast. So that's very exciting. So just real quick, a couple more things I wanted to share, particularly about some of the youth, and what does it look like now that the youth are older and they've had the material and they're applying it in life and so on. And we have 2 particular youth that started this project called My Mind's Big Thoughts. And it started out as a poetry group. And what they would do is they would meet 6 weeks, 8 weeks sessions, and they would all get together online and they would create art together along different themes. Well, it's now started, it actually has transformed and evolved into an arts group. And so now they do all form of arts, and they incorporate it, and they invite youth from around the world. And it's just this idea of sharing and listening to art, to all art inspired by diverse themes, and celebrate beauty and knowledge, and foster authentic friendships and unity, and a space to connect. Other artists also come in, like professional artists come in. So it's very similar to what our workshops have been. And these guys are doing that on their own initiative, really designing the whole thing from just their own passion. And so an example of what this looks like for this session, this is like year 2+, they're 2.5 years going. This is an example of their project this month. Basically the topic, the theme is love, and how is love portrayed, or what do we see? And this is all youth. This is all through the eyes of youth. What does that look like? And then they're invited to create art on this topic, any type of art they want, and then they get together, they share it. So I thought that was really exciting. And I did have a chance to hear from Sonia and reflect a little bit about her, basically her and Olivia. These are the two youth that are running this group. And this is what they have said. So this is actually Sonia said that I think we strive to create a space free of competition. The culture of competition could dissuade people from participating. We invite people of all skills and capabilities to do art. Also, we see beauty in each other's art. And one last example is the concept that art can be the change. We choose meaningful topics that can explore through art, which is something learned in TL. The Transformative Leadership for Youth provided a space that allowed meaningful relationships to form. And she says, I met Olivia in the TLY session, and to this day, we continue to collaborate and serve together. We recently had the opportunity to meet in person for the first time. So this was just like 2 weeks ago, they got to hang out. But really, this is a true testament. It's the youth that are the testament to the power and the influence of the program itself and the material. Some of these examples in terms of what are these youth who have been through the program, what does that look like? Well, they now serve as TLY mentors. So they actually join the sessions. They join to help facilitate and study the material with new youth joining the program. And then they also put together projects, like art projects. So this is a project that Sonia had put together, and she would post in the forums and check in with all the youth and find out how their projects are going. And really, again, any project goes. Here's another one she created. So this was a ceramic hanging mobile. Her passion over the last couple of years has really been getting into pottery and ceramics. So that's been fun to see. They're very systematic in putting their projects together, what materials the youth need, and then really it's the practice of the capabilities of interpersonal relationships, right? It's giving encouragement, it's including promoting unity and diversity. It is consultation, so they're always there to help the youth understand what's going on, and then really they're exemplifying and imbuing thoughts and actions with love through their work. So it's pretty incredible. Here's another youth. What she does is she would host a drawing session, and she would do pencil drawing, pen drawing, also digital Procreate, iPad drawing, and fantastic. And Lulu has been a part of the program from the very beginning, and she's still going strong. Like, she is just phenomenal. So 3 years plus, and a couple of other projects she's put together here. Really incredible and supportive and patient with the youth. And so there's some graphic art that the youth have created, and the idea of creating art inspired by the themes of TL. So what does consultation look like in an art form? This was just an example. And then what does group consultation look like in an art form? So if you have a group of people practicing consultation, you have here their qualities that they're fostering in that space. And that's pretty dynamic. more youth art created. And oh, really important, something that we incorporated within our sessions, and I believe also our adult sessions, is looking at the transformative family. So bringing in family members to reflect on and invite the youth to incorporate in their projects and to share their learning. Very important. And really, you know, how do we strengthen those powers of expression within our young people? Well, we invite them to continually use and practice them, especially when they're passionate about their vision and what they want to see in the world, and how they can now start to figure out how to make it happen. Some of the projects we've done, the idea is really changing perspective. We use the camera to do that, looking at happiness and humor through different art projects. These are just examples. Here's some from Sonia. And you start to see this, really this interconnectedness. So not only are they doing one piece of art, they're now doing multiple pieces of art. And so the idea is to see the whole thing integrated at the end of the seminar, and they start to see this big picture. So pretty incredible what these guys have been doing. Having special guests like Carl. Carl was one of our special guests in a more recent seminar, and he presented on TL and his work with building the Chile temple. This is actually a video, and so if anybody wants to watch that, I'll put that link in the chat. It is awesome. Right, Carl? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, it's fun.
It was fantastic.
I show this in my classes too.
Oh, so glad. And why is this important? You know, it's important because oftentimes our youth ask, well, what does this look like in real life? You know, and so in our spaces and our approaches, we try to provide a space where the youth can see context. You know, what does it look like when we are, you know, empowering members of an institution in context? A lot of our youth they don't really consider having a relationship with their school. You know, that is a new concept for them. And it doesn't even register, you know? And so what does it look like when you have individuals, community, and institutions that we're all familiar with these three protagonists, but when the youth start actively cultivating relationships along those lines of the three protagonists within a framework for action, that's dynamic. You know, that's really incredible. And that's what this shows. So we had a lot of special guests providing those contexts. And Carl was one of them. Okay. So that's it. The rest of my sharing is a video. So I don't know. Do you guys want to, maybe I'll stop sharing somehow. There we are. Do we have other people who want to share? Because we could close with that music.
One thing I wanted to share with you was an experience I've had with one of my students in the high school. She just was not performing, not doing her assignments in TL or all this business. So I went up to her and I noticed that she had a sketchbook with her. And so I said to show me her sketches, because what I've discovered that is very helpful in that class is to take the last 20 minutes or half an hour to walk around and visit with each student and talk to them. And that way it gets more, I get more out of the students that way. They'll listen to and talk to me personally. I talked to her and I said, you know, you're way behind in your assignments and this and that. Would you like to try and draw them? And show me what you want in your, how you describe what you're learning by drawing them. And so finally Thursday, she turned in her first drawing. And so at some point, I've got the drawing.
That's so great. I'm dying.
Here's her first drawing. Can you see it?
Oh my gosh, Carl.
Yeah. And this is kind of, I asked her, does that mean disintegration or integration? Well, she didn't know exactly how to answer, but I think it means both.
Both, absolutely.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
That is so cool.
I'm trying to draw her out and find out how she wants to express herself, not how I expect her to.
Brilliant.
So it's been interesting. Yeah.
That is
so I got to work
fantastic.
with her to keep going, you know, with her drawings. She's really very good. and self-taught. Very, very good. All these kids are about 16 years old.
And one thing too, like in the beginning of our seminars, you get a lot of hesitation of art sharing, and even just, you know, because there's a concern that it's not good enough, you know, so there's that culture of competition.
Right.
So one of the things that fosters the culture of collaboration, which makes sense, is the practicing those 3 group functions. So we implement those immediately into our culture, our change agent culture. And so development of capabilities, when we contribute to developing others in their capabilities, and also ourselves, that's part of that 3 group process. I'm wondering, do you think, Carl, that your student would want to share and teach some drawing skills to the class?
I could ask her.
It would be really interesting.
Oh, you mean in our class?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because that would be practicing of development of capabilities of others.
Right. Yeah, she may be too shy, but I'll talk to her about it.
You know, maybe as you guys get to know more of each other and stuff, or just an invitation, and that's really important. Invitation as opposed to expectation. And so I think that's so powerful. That's great. What a great story.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting one, how she reacted. She wouldn't look at me in the eyes before that. And when I suggested that, she looked up at me with such a glee in her face. Really, she said. I said, sure, let's try it. So she was excited.
That's incredible. Some of our youth, I think in general, some of the youth that have that passion for art, you know, it's part of the expression, right? We know it's a soul thing. Well, there are approaches in school where people say, stop doodling, you know, stop messing around, stop, you're not paying attention. If they see someone who's doing those kind of things. And that's just the opposite, actually. They're being inspired, you know, their thirst for knowledge is being answered, and they're translating it through a medium in a way that it, you know, is joy for them. I have one of those kids. I have one. And if there was ever a situation where she was minimized because she was doing art, you know, that would be stifling. And who would want to engage and learn in that space? So what you did is so powerful. It is so powerful. And she's going to remember that for the rest of her life.
Yeah. Well, I like to go around and talk to the kids and see what they're doing at the end of the class. And I'll talk to them about it and find out what their interests are and so forth. So it makes a better connection between what we're trying to do in their lives.
Beautiful. So great.
I just thought of something that might be interesting to share. Like I mentioned that I've been giving transformative leadership in different courses on master levels courses. And I don't remember how I got into this, but you know, with the idea that the best way to learn is to teach. So now I guess I'm mentioning this more for Carl, if he might be able to incorporate something like this. So after the end of each class, I give them like a mini assignment, which is I pick something from what we've seen, you know, that day. And, you know, I say, find a couple of friends that you think might be interested and explain to them the concept and the benefits of a creative group. And then they have to write, like, if this is online, they have to write like 4 or 5 lines just saying what they explained and how their friends responded. And I said, you know, if they're not interested, that's fine. You can just say they weren't interested. But the interesting thing is, in the last class where I did it, it's like several of the participants actually started up little, I guess in the faith we'd call them like social action projects. Like they found people who were interested and they decided to go ahead. And I mean, you know, some of them are kind of, I don't know what, but you know, like feeding stray dogs on the street. But still, I mean, they went way beyond what I was asking them, you know. So my idea was, if you find someone who's interested, you can form a creative group and maybe decide to meet once every 2 weeks and, you know, share your inquietudes, you know, share what you want to do. But
Right.
like I said, when I got, when people reported back, not all of them, I mean, a couple of them just said I explained, but my friend wasn't interested or didn't have time or whatever. But I mean, some of them just got up and ran with it. And so I've just found it's a very good way to work, because, you know, I said, explain, in this case, they're professionals. So I say, explain to a colleague, but if you can't explain to a colleague, it can be to a friend or a family member, but just talk to someone about this topic. The most important thing you've learned about this topic, and then report back on it. And, like a paragraph,
Well,
nothing
let's see what
long.
happens. Yeah.
Anyway, especially with this one group, I've done it twice now. I'm starting with my third group. But the second group, especially, like I said, some of them just responded like, wow. They really took the idea and went with it, especially with some of and it's a good way to reinforce, because, the sooner that you reinforce something, the more likely it is to stay with the person. So just giving these like mini assignments, like after each class, and talk to somebody about it and write up what you did.
That's so great.
No more than one paragraph.
That's
Good
a
idea.
great example.
Bite-sized pieces. It's good.
Yeah.
See, said
I mean,
Annie.
it kind of came about because I'm not in agreement with giving people points just for attending class. And especially since it's virtual, you can't even tell if they're really there or not, or they just they connected and then they turned off the camera. And even though you say keep your camera turned on, most of them don't.
No.
So I said, I'm not going to give them points just for coming to class. They have to show that they've understood something.
Right.
And even though it's only like 6 points for each assignment, it's not a lot, but they add up. So if you're not doing them, and there's been like 5 assignments that way, that's 30 points. Whoops, I got to go back and do those. And I let them turn it in late. I take off a point.
Yeah. I do something similar. Yeah.
Because the important thing is that they do it.
Right.
The important thing isn't the grade. I mean, I'm not going to feel, ha, 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 you got a lower grade. It's like, hey, you got kind of a low grade and there's still 2 of these assignments you haven't turned in. You can go back and do them still.
Right. Annie, do you have anything you want to share?
I don't, but I have a request. I have 2 grandchildren in Longmont.
Oh.
And I think they might really like that art thing that you're doing. They're both very artistic. One's 13 and one's 15.
Great.
They're not really active in the Baha'i community. Their mom is a very spiritual person and considers herself a Baha'i, but is not active in the Baha'i community. They were in Lafayette for a while and were invited to a junior youth group, and I really wanted them, but it didn't work out for her to transport them. But so is that art thing, is that online? Is that something that they could, or?
So Longmont's not very far from me, actually.
No, I know. That's why I know you're really close.
Yeah, really close. My first instinct, well, this particular one that we're doing is going to be 15 plus, and it's it's a little bit more localized than Longmont would be. So, but again, Longmont's not far. But I would think that maybe we could contact Rachel. Is it Rachel and who else? Charla. Charla is in Niagara.
Oh, Charla and Renee.
Oh, Renee. That's right. Renee. I was thinking, I don't know why we're Rachel. Who's Rachel? But Renee and Charla, they live there in that area. And I think that maybe we could reach out to them and see if we could find a space.
Yeah, I don't know if they'd be interested, but they are really artistic. And and their mother is, like I said, she's a very spiritual person. She's an intuitive healer is what she is.
Great.
So I think they'd eat up this whole transform. In fact, when I was doing the transformative leadership course, I was sharing with her, what I was learning
Oh, great.
through the program. So
Does she have a book?
no, but I think I'll get her one. I think I'll get a book for them.
Yeah, if she could get a book, and so if the mom is, and I'd be happy to also visit with her too,
Mhm.
just to.
I'll
do
see
the-
her at Thanksgiving because we're all gathering at one of
Great.
the brothers' houses. So I'll kind of feel her out.
Yeah, definitely. And it's okay to just share it and then explore it and then decide, and
Mhm.
so nothing has to be set up in stone or
Right.
anything like that. And the
Right.
idea though is we want to create a sustainable space where they take ownership of it, where they're the ones that are fully invested.
Mhm.
I think mom reading that book would be really key to that. That's a big takeaway.
Mhm.
Any spaces when there's administration or institutions, you got to have all parties, all people involved
Mhm.
in the process of TL for it to be really, truly transformative, I think.
Mhm.
But yeah, Annie, I'd be happy to help with that. Fantastic.
Yeah. Anyway,
Cool.
I just think it would be a neat thing for them to be involved in. And they're outside the box kids anyway, just because of the kinds of things that she teaches them.
I think it's perfect. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I just want to go on. Bahid?
No, please go
What
ahead,
would you say?
Elizabeth.
No. My neighbor just came by and I wanted to just share the Fuchi. This is one of the Fuchis.
That's great. That's so great.
It's one of the puppets that they're working on.
That's
Oh,
great.
that's brilliant. I love it.
I just wanted to share that a couple of people who couldn't come wrote, some just saying, sorry, I can't make it, I have an ATC meeting or something like that. But Kurt Henney, who is now in Rwanda, this weekend he is going to be consulting with, I'm not sure if it's in a reflection meeting or some other type of Baha'i meeting about the possibility of starting up a transformative leadership for youth group there.
Great.
Wonderful.
That's great. Do you know what age is, Joan?
I don't think he's to that stage yet. I told him about the transformative leadership. He knows about the transformative leadership for youth book, and I gave him the link to this, so he could get the Kindle edition for the time being, and then later get the other a print edition when he's someplace closer to an Amazon.
Yeah. I can email him and reach out and offer support.
Oh yeah, he asked that. He asked if you could share some of your art projects with him.
Definitely.
So ask Jessica if she can share some art projects for an unartistic type like me.
Oh, he wrote a poem. His is one, it was a beautiful poem. So he is so yeah, I don't believe it.
No, it's just like, it's this thing, I would tell you the same thing. It's like, you ask me to draw. I can't draw. I got this prejudice against drawing in kindergarten when I got criticized by my kindergarten teacher. And ever since then, I said, I can't draw.
Yeah, I relate to that. I had a 4th grade teacher that destroyed me. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to undo all of that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
Okay, so is it time? Oh, go ahead, Bahid.
Well, he wanted to say something.
In closing, perhaps I wanted to mention an experience I had last week. There was a webinar from Pennsylvania State University with a guest professor giving a talk about the Anthropocene, so this age we're in with regards to climate change. And the issue, he was explaining the issue he was having regarding teaching students about the climate change and the catastrophic period that's coming ahead with regards to the climate change. And so it was very interesting for me to listen to him, like facing the issue of giving information to students regarding the data we have regarding climate change. And he realizing that his students were really losing hope, basically, and getting more and more desperate as they learn more and more. And so he reflected on this and then decided to try to build hope as in his courses and take that on as a function of his work as a professor to give hope to learners regarding the issues of related to climate change. And so in this process, what he discovered worked was to help the students build up small projects, grassroots projects, community projects, where the learners could try out different things and try out different initiatives to remediate at a very local level with whomever they could the issues of climate change. And he discovered that this made him a much better professor and made his students live better through the process of learning about the coming catastrophes. And so there was a chance for questions at the end, and I asked him what he saw as a viable curriculum for community building, because that's essentially what he was describing. It was so interesting for me to hear his reflection regarding the idea that the US is particularly poorly equipped to train learners and develop skill sets related to community building, and that more research and knowledge was needed regarding that. And he mentioned that he had lived in Samoa and somewhere else, Fiji maybe, and that communities there were much better equipped with better capital, knowledge capital about community building there. So my follow-up step will be actually to share with him the TL book so that he can look at it and see if that complements his curriculum and his work with students, because it provides a ready-made curriculum regarding the topic of community building. So that was just a reflection I wanted to share from a totally unexpected experience in with US professors that are working in educating youth in the US.
That is so exciting.
Could you send us a link to his talk?
Sure.
That's wonderful. Boy, I'm really eager to hear about his feedback once he sees TL.
Yeah, it would be interesting, I'm sure. Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Okay, so is it okay to share the music created by the youth from our last seminar?
Yes, please. I think that would be a great closing.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. And is that visible? Oh, I gotta stop sharing and add sound, sorry. It always gets me. Okay, so this image is actually of Kudus. This is one of our youth. He's actually, he lived in Vietnam, but now he's moved to Turkey. And he had started sessions, I believe he was 13, and I think he's 14. I think he's almost 15 now. He was the only youth that registered for the new seminar. And he's just such a delight. Anyway, so he is pretty proficient when it comes to his, well, actually everything he does, but he has composed. So the music you're going to listen to is his composition. And then the accompaniment is also by Eric Harper, who's a Canadian musician, and he has been a part of our seminars, a professional artist who has supported the youth from the very beginning. And as I was getting this little video thing together just to share, I realized, in a couple of years, we could probably put an album out with all our music that the youth are creating. So in the future, just know that we'll have our own album. Okay, let's get going. So hopefully you can hear it okay. And oh, do you hear it?
No.
I don't either. Okay, hold on.
We didn't hear it now.
And if you can make it bigger, it would be really good so we can read the words. I mean, I know you haven't gotten to the part with the words, but since I saw it before.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to make this.
Yeah, it looks okay now.
It looks okay. It's just there's no sound.
Oh,
Is it
well,
on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Maybe we can look it up.
Or you could share the link and I can try to share the screen.
Yeah, can you try to do that? Because this is
Could you share the link in the chat, please?
yeah, hold on. For whatever reason, having a new system does not solve all the problems in life. I don't understand why. Okay, there's the link. So yeah, let's see, Vahid, if you can get that to share. Well, I don't know why there's no sound. I'm sure it's my sound system. I know it is. Okay. So yes, yours works.
Just a second.
So strange.
When the wind blows severely, rains fall fiercely, grieve not, grieve not. The lightning flashes, the thunder roars, grieve not, grieve not. The boat descends and storms of trial become severe, grieve not, grieve not. For after this storm, verily, the divine spring will arrive. For after the storm, verily, grieve not, grieve not, grieve not, grieve not. When the waves are crashing, threaten to swallow us in, be the wind, be the wind. When the clouds are enshrouded, the darkness is casting its gaze, be the wind, be the wind. When all seems lost and hope is distraught, be the wind, be the wind of change. For after this storm, verily, the divine springtime will come. For after this storm, verily, grieve not, grieve not, grieve not, grieve not. Be the wind, conquer the sea, ride the waves, be the wind.
So this is the quote that was inspired, that music was inspired by, is Abdul Baha. And then that music was composed, basically Quddus, and then Eric accompanied, it was actually a group of us, and then accompanied then in the support of putting it together and then producing it. And then adding some of those other instruments.
Yeah, that's great. Is that Kudus's voice?
No, that's Eric singing it.
Okay, good.
That's Eric singing
Oh,
it.
it's Eric singing it. I thought
Yeah,
it was
that's
Kadeem
Eric.
singing it.
No.
Oh, okay.
And so it's interesting because one of the really significant takeaways after, so really looking at the, X amount of years, I mean, I could say 4 years now working with youth is, I can walk into a situation and be really excited about, oh, let's do this. And let's finish this project. Let's create this project. Let's have it done. Well, what happens is sometimes that's not the case. And so a lot of times, like with this idea, the approach of supporting youth in creating something, it's really an undefined timeline, and it takes time. And so oftentimes our projects in our sessions, they don't actually get finished. They're ever evolving. And so in this particular case, this is an ever evolving situation. So the idea was, I was going to share this, Kudus knows about where we are with this music. And so the next question was, okay, Kudus, what do we want to do next? But with this new seminar not happening, we didn't have that space to continue. And so the idea is, as a lot of these things evolve over time, and so how do we continue to sustain the progress in these projects over time? And that has to do with relationships. And so really having a solid relationship with the youth and authentic and everything. And then there's always a space to go back and do stuff. So this will most likely evolve in the future into something. Yay.
Yeah, amazing. Yep.
Really delightful.
That's the dynamic of change. Knowledge is not fixed, it's evolving, and our projects are evolving too.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we're precisely at time, so thank you everyone for participating and sharing both your experiences and requests. It's been illuminating and inspiring, so thanks everyone for joining us in this TL community reflection meeting. And we'll be setting up another one in about 3 months' time. So we'll let you know, and we'll be very happy to hear more of your experiences and learning and sharing all that.
Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Nice to see
Bye-bye.
you all. Bye-bye.